Julie said she needs these signed, so I can get to them. One stapled, one's not. Just to let you know, Gary, we're live streaming.
How's she feeling?
She's sick. Do we have the resumes for the interviews? I left mine at home.
I can drop these off.
I could scan them and give them to Julie, and that way everybody can have a copy of it.
Let's see if I got those.
And of course, Rick, they didn't reappoint Rick several years ago when he did make some interviews with his wife for cancer and so Rick has been on for several years, but I don't know if Rick had necessarily represented him on other things, but Rick had represented him on several different things, and he was after Rick. Yeah, but yeah, that I thought it's just too funny though, because I literally just told Mary, I can't wait for this surprise to call me at Kroger's and come to tell her that, Dr. Public saw, and his name was Jeffrey Lewis. And see, I never knew his name, but we got the biggest laugh over that. It was hilarious. It really was. It was about 6 months ago. Mrs. Dawson, Elizabeth Dawson, Mrs. Dawson. I believe he was one that was talking to him. And he was here with another guy, but we got the big stuff from this over Paul and Dr. It was great. We did do nice. All right, well, I'll get that sent over to you. If I don't get it to you tonight, I'll get it to you this morning. Who's you know? Is it your one? Okay. Okay. All right. Hello. Are you here for Trustee? Good. He said just to have you come in here. I'm Laura. Bubba. I'm doing good, Jerry. There you go. The other two trustees are sitting here at their podiums. Hi there. This is Holly.
Hi, Holly.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. Nice to meet you
It's
guys.
nice to meet you. Very interested.
I take it anywhere?
Yep.
Okay.
just to let you know, we're already live streaming that in preparation, so.
Gotcha. So don't say nothing funny.
Well, if it's funny.
Okay.
Would you like water or anything, or?
I'm good, thank you though.
Okay.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you all?
Good.
I'm great. Got your hands full. Gotta kill a small tree for this. Yeah, looks like it. I'm glad to see you. How are you?
Had to bring my own snacks.
I see.
I ain't talked to Township and it's giving me snacks yet.
Let me offer you some water. Not water. Oh, sorry.
Well, what's left of it? I
Or-
drank a little bit on the way here.
Okay. Is Jackie coming tonight? Is
Yeah.
something else to say?
She's just finishing up
Okay.
at her.
Oh, yeah. You're alive.
Yes. She has not killed me yet. But she's working on it. Does the BZA answer to Etna Township trustees?
You have to talk to Laura. She won't give you the answer to these things. And she's in there. You want
Is
to
she?
talk to her? Yeah, she's in there.
Maybe I'll make my first record. So citizen get their minutes?
Talk to Laura. You can walk in. It's open. Yep.
of it. Looks like you came with extra credit.
Well, I didn't want to leave any
You
stone
done
unturned.
everything possible, huh? Surprised you didn't get bring back a dirt.
That is definitely a tree right there. It's not as bad as it looks though. I take it you were able to open up that Dropbox okay?
Yeah. I got those. Testing. You guys feel warm in here, or is it just me?
It might be a smidge.
I feel like it's like a little, get the fans on, just a little circulation.
Hey there.
Hot.
How are you?
I'm marvelous.
Don't have any ink pens around here, do you?
No, I don't. You know, they shut down Office Depot, so I can't go replace them.
One of a kind.
That's the only place I was talking about. I'll be honest with you, I was too cheap to buy them. I think he took them from work when he worked at, Greg was from, the builder, Dave
Fox.
Dave Fox, when he worked for them, and then he retired from them, and now he's kind of doing some stuff on the side, retired. But I think because he always had those pens, and my guess is they stopped him there. So he really didn't move as a pen, you know.
He's not
Oh, I care for that.
There you go.
I kind of, yeah, and then I kind of smear them.
I like those. I like the good color on them.
Well, you know, not that I want to really say much, you know, but Grotius and Griggs has a really good free pen that they bring us.
Does it say they're more for name on
It does, it does. And it writes in blue, because most of the time they don't write in blue.
We're too cheap.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe you're doing like some money around, I don't know, I'll have to ask them, okay?
Hi, David. Mr. Burkholder, how are you? Actually, you told me I could call you Gary, so I'll take it back.
That's true.
Executive session for employment and discipline.
Yep.
Well, I didn't offer this to you. You know, work she has, but that's, so, I will offer this to you.
Now you're teasing. That's just teasing. I'm gonna sit over in the corner if you need this.
Hey, Bob. Good, how are you?
The mics are on, I just said,
Yeah, I'm on.
Call to order the Etna Township Board of Trustees special meeting Tuesday, February 27th, 2024 at 4 p.m. Roll call, please.
Trustee Evans,
here.
trustee Burkholder,
Here.
trustee McKee. Here. And Julie Barron's excused.
Yes. Would you please give the invitation, Ms. McKee?
Stand with me and bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day that you have made. We thank you for allowing us to come into this building to take care of the business of the township. We ask you to continue to bless this township, keep your hand over the township and the households, and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is time for public comments. You have 3 minutes, and your comments will have to pertain to
Was
the...
it agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, discussion?
The only thing on the agenda for the executive session, are we doing them completely separate? One for the interview and then one for the disciplinary?
Yeah, I
Like
think,
coming out and then going back?
I
or-
think that would be wise.
Okay.
Yes, I thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Evans,
Yes.
trustee Burkholder,
Yes,
trustee McKee,
Yes.
the agenda is adopted. Now's the time for public comments. As I was saying, please keep those comments to items on the agenda. Is there anyone who would like to speak at this time? If so, please come to the podium and state your name and address. Hearing none, the chair will entertain motion to go into executive session.
I move to go into executive session per ORC 121.22G1 to consider the employment and discipline of a public employee or regulated individual.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
trustee Evans,
Yes.
trustee Burkholder,
Yes.
trustee McKee,
Yes.
We will go into executive session, the 3 trustees and Holly Palumbo.
and the time is 4:00.
And the time is 4:03. Is there a motion? Is there a motion to come out of the executive session at 4:26 p.m.?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ms. McKee.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Evans. Roll call, please.
Trustee Evans?
Yes.
Trustee Burkholder?
Yes.
Trustee McKee?
Yes.
It's 4:27.
27. Thank you.
And I will move to authorize Trustee Burkholder to enter an agreement and sign outside the meeting and offer Ms. Holly Palumbo the position, and for Trustee Burkholder to effectuate that, any paperwork and scheduling that as he sees fit.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. McKee. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Evans?
Yes.
Trustee Burkholder?
Yes.
Trustee McKee?
Yes.
Pass.
Thank you.
So you will get with Gary and work that.
So you're welcome to stay, but if you have other things, you're welcome to. Okay, very good.
And then I'll move to re-enter into executive session per ORC 121.22 G1 to consider the discipline of public employees.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
On discussion, so the first one's really gonna be the employment and regulate, and the second one will be your other two.
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, you're welcome. Trustee Evans?
Yes.
Trustee Burkholder?
Yes,
Trustee McKee?
Yes.
it'll be 3 trustees at 4:28 p.m.
So you're going back in there.
That's where I go through, when you go our house, I go through this stuff, you know, see what house is ready. What was good, and still think about it. Oh, I'm over that. I'm making my mother was calling me.
Is there a motion to come out of executive session?
Oh, so moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
At 4:46 PM, roll call, please.
Trustee Evans?
Yes.
Trustee McCord?
Yes.
Trustee McKee?
Yes.
Pass.
All right, and I'll move to approve the two disciplinary agreements as presented, authorizing Trustee Evans to sign and effect these outside the meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
No,
Hearing
sir.
none, roll call, please.
Trustee Evans?
Yes.
Trustee Burkhardt?
Yes.
Trustee McKee?
Yes.
Pass.
Very good, old business. Chair will entertain a motion on the National Fitness Campaign NFC Grant Outdoor Fitness Court.
Yeah,
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yes. Yes. We had, months ago, when under our administrator, Ms. Hanson, that was here, had reached out to a national fitness organization. They're like a campaign to purchase a exercising kind of equipment, very unique. The only one that's around here is way over in Ohio. So we here at Etna Township would be the only one on this side of the town, or even in Central Ohio, that would have that equipment. And that's going to bring us a lot of people to our new park in the future. It's exciting. It's low impact. We had a discussion on this months ago with the board, and we decided to pass that we would participate, and we were able to get a $30,000 grant. I'm excited that we are getting some kind of funds to go towards the equipment for the township. I think it's a good thing. I know there were some questions that our prosecutor asked, and if you wanted me to bring those up and have a discussion.
Please do
Okay.
so.
One of the questions she had asked about the interest rate, there is no interest rate. The only interest rate would be if our fiscal officer does not make the payment by a particular date. It's a one-time payment. So there wouldn't be an interest rate as long as she makes that payment. And I have confidence that she'll make that payment within 30 days. The other question, the prosecutor talked about shipping and packing and insurance. There's no extra cost for that. That's included in the cost. So that's the other question she had for us, Mr. Burkholder. Let's see, what else is here? Oh, contract. Okay, because this is a campaign, there's no contract for this NFC. This is just a campaign. So one time, they're not really a vendor. Again, it's a campaign. So there is no fixed contract at all. So we can make sure you're aware of that and the board's aware of that. As far as the ADA access, the company, NFC, will provide us with the installer that installs the equipment that has the ADA-H accessibility to pour in place flooring installation. They're all a part of that. They are actually approved by the NFC. So we don't have to worry about that. Also, the additional $40,000 is for a concrete pour that the equipment sits on. We will be responsible for that, but there is a concrete specs that works directly with the installer that meets those specs, and they will provide that as well. The installer will provide that to the contracting company that does the pour concrete. As far as the guidelines, they will be provided. An example, when you go to a gym, they usually have some postings of like a disclaimer type for safety rules. They will be posted around on the equipment itself. So that is included by the installer. As we went through there, these are all the questions our prosecutor had. 5, I think we could talk about 5, about the purchase of the legal and owner of the landowner is we're willing to abide by the obligation. That's something we can discuss as a board. Tomorrow, there is a Zoom call with the organization, NFC, and they're willing to answer additional questions if we need to as a board. So hopefully you guys got a Zoom invite today, or if not yesterday, to be on a call tomorrow with them. But all of these were addressed by the NFS.
When is the payment due, and how much is it?
You got that? We moved the date for that because we didn't know we were going to get that on that special meeting today.
Right.
So since we did, but she had already moved it to March 7th. So that's when that payment will due. She's going to send out an invoice, and then our fiscal officer can send him the check with the invoice.
Mr. Evans, you have any comments?
Yes, Ms. McKee, has the NCA been contacted regarding this purchase?
Oh yeah, we were on the phone. Yep. Yes, we were. That's where I got those questions answered. Yeah.
Okay, because I think we're jumping the gun a little bit for any reimbursement through the NCA, which that was created basically to help fund this park.
Correct.
That those have to be pre-approved before, it's got to be an agreement that those funds are going to be used for that before they're spent. So I don't think we should be spending anything because this is over $200,000 that could be paid for through the NCA and not the township not the township general fund. The other concern I have is, we're just talking about doing the lot split and everything right now. Park design, I don't think we're anywhere close to that. We still have open seats on there, and as I'm aware that none of the applicants were contacted that submitted interest in that. A concern is the storage of this. It's 11,000 pounds and in an area about 15 by 15 or 20 by 20 that they'll expect us to store it. I think with the timeline when we would actually be able to install it, creates quite a, hassle, but also possible damage to it for over a year where they could be hit. And these do weigh quite a bit. One crate is 1,500 pounds, another one 1,100 pounds, 5,000 pounds of tile pallets. So if our crew even just needed to move them around, it would be a hassle. Now this grant is an ongoing program. It's available next year. The opening for 2025 funding is, I believe, June. And they would award it in next January or February. It's a first come, first serve. It's not like they look at your community, see if you're deserving of this. They just, if you want it, they're going to give it to you. I would, for those reasons, table this for now, reapply for it next year to see when we're doing this, because it's not like this is going to be the first thing that goes into that park. I think we're going to have access roads. We're going to have a lot of things. We got to do it in conjunction with that. It's a good plan. I brought it up back in 22, so I'm for it. But I think we shouldn't be spending it. It should go through the NCA process, and then also we should delay it towards when we're going to need it. And then I also talked to the representative, Leah. Previously it was David. I forget his last name, but. Even working with the schools, there's the design artwork on the one side. You can do the general graphics. You can have prominent artists do it. However, within our package, it allows like the graphic design art students in our high schools to provide the design.
That's nice.
And give them a little buy-in to this. And I think doing it now, you could still do that, but like I said, for all those reasons, I think we should delay this until the 2025.
Okay, I just want to make it clear, Mr. Evans just mentioned that he tried it back in 2022. So we brought it back. It's going to either 15 by 20 or 20 by 20. We have the storage over in the garage. I've already checked with Mr. Bubba about that, so we have the space to store it. They are aware that it's a 2025 install. They got us pre-approved for that, so they're okay with that. Mr. Evans, you voted for us to put the money in on this on our last vote, just back in December. I have the minutes. You voted,
apply for the grant, but the timing is what I'm
exactly.
talking
You
about.
voted for us to get the grant and also to spend money toward the $217,000. Yes, you did. It's in the minutes. So, and just to be clear, we hired EMH&T, Jim, is it Yankovic? He is very familiar with this equipment. He's installed this at another park, the one in Xenia. So he's very familiar with the layout, how it should be laid out, where it should go. Very confident. I had conversations with him about it. So I'm very confident putting this in our beautiful new park to come will be a great thing. Again, it will bring attractions to the township. It's one of a kind in the area. So I think we should move forward because we did vote on this, Mr. Evans. You had a buy-in on it. And so now all of a sudden you're saying something different. But you did vote for it. You voted for $217,000, and you also voted for me to apply for the grant, which I did, because our administrator that's no longer with us couldn't do it. So we pushed that I would go ahead and apply for it, and I did. So we were successful to get to $30,000.
I have a few questions. The NCA stands for the New Community Authority. So, Ms. McKee, you say they were on the phone call?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I meant to say NFC. No, I have not spoken
That's
to
what I
them.
thought.
I'm sorry. I'm clear that up for the record.
But this has to be installed by the end of 2025, correct?
Correct.
And it's $165,000 that we have to pay within 30 days, correct?
Yep, and it was approved by the board, the previous board.
And I agree. And I'm all for parks. I've managed parks in some of my other positions, and so I'm excited about the possibilities, but I too have some concerns. First of all, we don't even know where we're going to put it in the park.
That's right.
And we don't have a road to get into the park.
Right, but it will be stored in our garage.
Yeah, I'm not against the proposal, but I don't think the timeline works.
Okay, that's fine.
Because, so I'm more in favor of tabling it and revisiting, and I'll tell you why. The road, the extension of the road off of 310 next to Drayton Hall, that remaining section has been estimated somewhere around $400,000 to $500,000. So I'm familiar with park planning. Like I said, it sounds like a good project. But until we get a master plan for the park and until we map and document where the wetlands are, we're not even sure where this event would go. And it does have restrictions.
Right.
Can't be too close to a school. It's got to have paths built to it.
Yep.
So if you put it in the park and we don't have a path to it, it's not in compliance. And so it's very detailed, the proposal, but I think it's premature at this time simply because we're not ready to move forward. So I guess my only other question is, do we know when the park, and by the way, Mr. Evans, I hope that I think that'll be on the next agenda to try to get the applicants for the park committee.
Okay. I was just surprised that they weren't even contacted.
Well, they haven't been contacted with a number of things, but I plan to contact them. In fact, I have them in the file, those who applied to add to the committee. So that's my concern at this time. I support it, but I don't want to get a situation we spend $165,000 and store it, and then we can't get it in. I don't think we'll be able to start.
There won't be a problem installing it. It won't. We have the land. Yeah, we have the land.
But we do not have a master plan.
Yeah, we don't. You're right.
But we don't have the funding. The funding has not been identified to add that roadway to get access, and we don't even know how far we're going to put it into you can get to the edge of the park, But the real question is where you're gonna put it in the park.
Well, I'm gonna make it clear, Mr. Evans voted for it. And,
I understand.
And just for him to say that we didn't reach out to the committee, he voted for it, so that's an excuse, but that's fine.
No, that's correct.
I just quickly to clarify, I voted to apply for the grant and if we could, I didn't say that, yeah, we're gonna store it, we're gonna do all this, that's where timing comes in. And there's no problem, Ms. McKee, please, there's no problem. And I spoke to the representative of doing this next year, it's available, it's not going away. And in 22, it was October, I just wanted discussion and the board refused to even discuss this. That was all.
Mr. Evans, what is your recommendation?
I recommend that we,
or your motion?
my motion is to deny the purchase at this time for.
Well, we have a resolution, correct? We have a resolution?
Yeah.
That was your motion, is that correct?
Correct.
At this time to pass the resolution?
Yes.
Oh, she moved to pass it. I didn't hear her.
Well, was this merely discussion, or do you want to?
You had a motion on the floor, your practice. Rosalind moved and Mark seconded it.
To discuss.
Discussion on the NFC.
To discuss the resolution.
Resolution was not mentioned.
Right, but you have a motion on the floor
Right.
that hasn't been voted on.
So we've discussed it now, so the question is, do you want to clarify that are we going to table this project, or do you want to move forward with the resolution that you prepared, Mrs. McKee?
I would love to move forward. I mean, it's an opportunity for the township to get the 30,000. I
Well,
mean,
then I'll entertain, the chair will entertain a motion to amend the original motion to include passage or the resolution that you prepared. But I'll need an amendment so that we can clarify this, that we're actually going to be voting on the resolution that all three trustees have been presented with. So is there a motion to amend the original motion, the main motion?
you're asking for us to amend the resolution to do what?
Well, the
You said
resolution,
something about
well,
tabling.
Mr. Evans is correct. The motion was to discuss it. It wasn't to pass your resolution.
Right, it was a discussion, that's correct.
Okay.
Gary, I don't have that exactly when we sent down to the prosecutor's office, but I think this is the language on here. If you want me to go print it, I can. I didn't know you were gonna need that resolution tonight. I thought the prosecutor's office was reviewing it.
Well, those are the questions from the prosecutor. She did review them. That's why I was able to answer those
What I'm
questions.
saying is, if you need that resolution, I can go print what I sent out. This, I think, is the wording on it, though.
Is that necessary, or can I move to amend the motion?
You can move.
I'll move to amend the motion to table the grant until the next funding cycle.
Second. Is there further discussion on the amendment?
No discussion.
Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Evans?
Yes,
Trustee Burkholder?
Yes.
Trustee McKee?
No.
and then a vote on the motion,
Well,
because that
yes.
was just an amendment.
Yeah, I'll vote on the main motion then, which is basically to table.
Main motion as amended. for the record.
Yes.
Trustee Evans?
Yes,
Trustee Burkholder?
Yes.
Trustee McKee? No.
Okay. Under new business, we've already taken care of the administrative assistant with that motion, and now we have the lot split request by Mr. Hodge. Mr. Hodge, you have the floor.
If I could approach Mr. Burkholder, I have
You may, and I also want to give for you and Mr. Lang these documents, which has to do with the minor land. That's the lot split, which we completed, and there's a copy for you. And we'll file the original, or maybe you can file the original.
that gives me the opportunity
oh,
to
great.
put it into OpenGov and keep the county moving with that process.
Thank you.
I've got several copies if anybody would like to have one.
I don't believe.
Is that one, sir? I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. David Lodge on behalf of the developer of the Langley Farm.
And state your address,
Yeah,
please.
8000 Walton Parkway, Suite 260, New Albany, Ohio, 43054. I'm going to meander around a little bit. I gave the board a series of exhibits in no particular order. I just thought it might be beneficial as we move back and forth across these exhibits to have a number so that you know what I'm talking about and be able to get to page number. The item listed on the agenda for this tonight is the lot split. So we'll start there and meander around. The first exhibit in the package I gave you is a meets and bounds legal description of 19.43 acres, which constitutes the park property that would be transferred to Etna Township under an existing agreement between the Langley family and Etna. That agreement, I think it got entered into in 2021, and I've been back before this board a number of times in, generally 6-month increments to get that extended. You'll recall all of you were in the room, although Mr. Burkholder, I don't think you were on the board last time. The present extension is up to June 1st of this year. So that's the first exhibit in here, listed as Exhibit 1. The longer page is the survey of the property, and you can see exactly where that 19.43 acres is in relation to the balance of the Langley property here on the west side. The reason, and really the crux of what we're trying to do with the board is the plat is not fully approved by Licking County yet. And, if there's anybody to blame for that, I'll take the blame. It's been quite a long slog for me to work through the Licking County process. I had all of my focus and attention on getting the construction plans approved. Those are also, I think you've all been provided those separately, but that's also in your packet as some later exhibits. Those construction plans are approved through the Licking County process, signed by everybody, the property owners, us, planning, engineering, the township. And so what those plans allow us to do is to commence construction. If we called Licking County and said we're going to commence in 30 days, we could go out there with bulldozers and start demoing the buildings and doing the project. But we don't have the plat approved, and the plat is an important part of this. It was to be the mechanism by which the township got transferred the property, and it talks about the pond and the outlets for the pond and the necessary use of the park property in furtherance of the development on the adjacent property. And so, because we need to close on this transaction with the Langley family, we are asking that the board accept a deed that reserves for us a blanket easement that's temporary to allow us to do everything in furtherance of the plat, which is also in your package, until the plat is completed. And once the plat is completed, that temporary blanket easement would expire by operation of law, and all of the easements detailed on the plat that's on file with Licking County would replace that temporary blanket easement and then be in place. So let me, show you specifically where that is in the documents that I've given you. If you look over to Exhibit 4, that is the deed that we propose that we close with. You can see some redlining on the front of the deed. That's to go back and add in, parcel number, instrument number. When it was originally done, it had the wrong county on it. And then flip back to page 3, section A there says exactly what I just now said about the temporary blanket easement, about that blanket easement expiring by operation of law upon the recording of the plat. The second part of the language there, V, is language that Licking County has said that they would require be included in the deed. So that's why that language is in there. What else? Flip back over to Exhibit 2. And Exhibit 2 is the original agreement that goes back to 21, I believe. And I've highlighted some things on there. And that's really just to show to the board and to have the board recall that when this deal was originally struck, that the idea was for these properties to work together, that the development property is working with the park property and vice versa, kind of as a master planning effort. That's the highlighted portion there on the first page. The highlighted portions back on the second page talk about sort of our obligations to one another, our need to get sewer and water service secured for the property, our need to get the subdivision approvals necessary, or the contract terminates. Obviously, we don't want the contract to terminate. That's why I've been here in these 6-month increments to extend this to make sure that this component of your overall park happens and happens within the timelines of our obligations to the Langle family and also the obligations between the Langle family and Etna Township. I've also included in here, just for your reference, that recent agreement. That is the most recent amendment that takes us out to June the 1st. Exhibits 5, 6, and 7. 5 is the plat that's on file with the county. It's in. It's been reviewed by all county agencies. Our civil engineers, any day now will have the revisions back submitted to the county per the engineer and planning. And I think CJ over at Sewer and Water had a note he needed us to add, so that process is underway. And then 6 and 7 are the final site engineering, construction, and the road improvements that have been fully through the county process. A little bit about that county process. We came here and got zoning permits years ago now, and have worked. We've tried to work diligently through the Licking County process. It's been a long, difficult slog, and we're still unfortunately in it, but we've diligently worked at it. Hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars have been spent in terms of the necessary plan preparation. You can flip through these detailed construction plans. That's a civil engineer preparing that, submitting that to Licking County Planning, all county agencies reviewing that, telling us what we need to revise, our civil engineers making those revisions, resubmitting, and just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. We've gone here across a couple of years to get to where we are on these construction plans. But again, those are fully approved. The last thing, and then I'm going to shut up and open up my ears and do my best to answer any questions that the board has. But the last thing I want to talk about a little bit is the pond that is going to be on the township's park property. Now, good, bad, and different, whether you agree with it or whether you disagree with it, that is the deal that got struck back years ago. At that point in time, the purpose of that pond was to provide what was then seen as an amenity to the park. It was sized accordingly to take all the runoff off of the development parcel. The thought was that it would be aesthetic, that it would be, potentially be stocked with fish, guys can go back in there and fish, and that it would be an amenity to your new park. So that's how it is that it ended up getting there. Whether you agree with that or disagree with that, that's the deal that all got struck. The form of deed, which you have as the other exhibit I talked about, that's in Exhibit 2, talked about the long-term maintenance of that pond. And at the time the deal was struck, that form of deed said that the maintenance of that pond was going to be 50-50. It's going to be 50% by Etna Township and 50% by the development portion of the property. So part of what we'd like to do and part of the discussion here these last several days has been about how that pond gets maintained. And apparently some other ponds, other locations in the township have not been adequately maintained and have become an issue. And so we want to make sure that that's not the case here. And a couple of things have happened in the week or so leading up to me being here tonight. The first thing is the maintenance of the pond is not going to be 50-50. The maintenance of the pond is going to be borne 100% by the development portions of this property. So that's the first thing, and that's important. And that's a little bit of a change in this form of deed. And that's, if anybody wants to look at precisely where that is, I'll show you exactly where that language is, and it's stricken in that form of deed. Would you like me to do? Would you like to look at that?
Where is that located?
Yeah. So go into Exhibit 2 and flip all the way back. Oh, I think I highlighted it. Yeah, go all the way back to page 8. And that statement there, the highlighted in green, concludes by saying, it says that the development portion of the property is going to maintain yada, 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 but shall be reimbursed for 50% of the cost thereof by buyer at least once annually, the buyer in this case being Etna Township. So that was the original agreement. But that's not what's going to happen. It's going to be borne 100% by the development portion of the property. And I know this is important to all of you. And the question might be, well, how's that going to happen? And it's a good question. It's a fair question. And I'm glad I've been pushed on it this last week or so. And Mr. Burkholder pushed me on it a little bit. And we had a meeting last week with Licking County Planning. Thank goodness Jared Neuer was in that meeting, your county engineer, and Jared Neuer said, this pond needs to be on the ditch maintenance program. And I want everybody to know what that means. I'm a zoning guy. I've had to learn what ditch maintenance means here this last week and some today. I actually had conversations with Franklin County engineer and spent a half an hour earlier today on the phone with Jared Neuer so that I could bone up on this issue a little bit myself. And what it means is the county commissioners, in conjunction with the county engineer, and certainly with Etna Township leadership's participation, is going to decide what it's going to take to maintain this pond. That's done with civil engineers and cost estimates and maintenance and all that. Then, once the county commissioners take up the petition, the ditch maintenance petition, every year, when the owners of this property, the adjacent property, the development portion of the property, pay their taxes, so it's going to come right on their tax bill. There's an increment on that tax bill that is set aside that goes into a separate bucket of money to pay for the county engineer to do the ongoing maintenance of that pond. Now, I know some other ponds in the township and other places, certainly in Lincoln County, have failed through the years. a lot of those ponds historically were the maintenance obligation of owners associations. And those owners associations have failed to fulfill their obligations or had money issues or whatever the case may be, and some of those ponds have failed. In this case, there's going to be an added tax to the development portion of the property under that ditch maintenance petition program that pays for the maintenance of the pond. Now, I included an exhibit on this, and if you go all the way back to the far back of your package, it's listed as Exhibit 8. And this is a lot of stuff. It's issued by the County Engineers Association of Ohio. But if you flip back into that, there's one spot up there in green, and it talks about maintenance. And what it says is the Board of County Commissioners must establish and maintain a fund for the repair, upkeep, and permanent maintenance of each improvement constructed under the provisions of the drainage laws. Whenever the board, from its own observations or the recommendation of the county engineer, or, and this next part is very important, or on the written complaint of any of the owners of lands subject to said maintenance assessment, has reason to believe such improvement is in need of repair or maintenance, it will, as a board or by the county engineer, make an inspection of the condition. So essentially what that means is, if anybody, the elected officials of Etna Township or anybody else, believes that pond is not being adequately maintained, call in, makes an inspection happen, come out, do the inspection. If remedial measures are necessary for that pond maintenance, that ends up being an additional tax on the adjacent portion, the adjacent property owners, to pay for that pond maintenance. So I was instinctively thrilled when I heard Mr. Gurr suggest the ditch maintenance petition program, and I think that it is the simplest and most effective way to make sure that this pond gets maintained appropriately in perpetuity. And it's not just a situation where, you know, somebody willy-nilly is going to go out and make an annual inspection. It is a situation where folks that believe that pond's not adequately maintained, and people are going to know it when it's ultimately in this park, you know, kind of adjacent to the drive aisle, they're going to know if that pond's not getting maintained, call in an inspection and make sure it gets done at the owners of the property's expense. The owners of the property's expense.
So the owners will be the part.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
A couple more things and then we'll stop. This agreement, as I mentioned, got struck, you know, a long time ago now, 2021. The Langle family, many of whom are here with me tonight, agreed to transfer that portion of the property over to Etna Township for in the neighborhood of $17,000 an acre. It's a great deal for the township. It is a sale, and we'll not dispute that it's a sale, but there is also an element of donation associated with it because the market value of that property is much more than $17,000 an acre. Some might say, well, it's got power lines through it, and that's a detriment to it. But in the day of power and all the discussions going on around power and the need for new substations, and with the advent of data centers in New Albany and other locations, Tascola, the residual value of that parkland is far greater than $17,000 an acre. So it is a sale, but it's also largely a contribution, and frankly always was. So I guess I'll stop there. I've thrown a whole lot at you. Let me just throw one more element. And I thought that this ship had already sailed, but possibly not. I know there was a meeting last week or the week before, and we talked about construction of the road. Mr. Burkholder alluded to that, I think, earlier in a discussion on one of the other subjects. My client is willing to build that road. The cost estimates vary. The engineer's cost estimate is, I don't know, 450 or 500. That's proving to be low in terms of the bids we've received. I've provided those bids to the township. I have not provided them to you, trustee.
I sent them out.
Okay, well, good, so that everybody has those, and we have bids from TLV, who is really the preferred contractor for my client, and we have bids from Complete General, and Complete General is likely going to end up being the selected contractor. And so the actual cost of that road is more in the neighborhood of that leg of road is more in the neighborhood of $550,000 to $600,000. I did not bring those with me, but you guys have all hopefully had an opportunity.
I sent them out recently, so I don't know if they've checked. I sent that email that had those documents attached to the other trustees, so.
So that is something we're willing to do. We're willing to construct that road and get paid for the actual cost by the township and have you get your separate bids, check our bids, but we're willing to build that. Just it creates some efficiencies. It gets the road back in there. I know that you guys have evaluated the road. You've evaluated the possibility, at least high level, of taking the road in to the north on the JBW property and the property you own up there. I personally don't think that's feasible because JBW owns the vast majority of that frontage, and then the northern portion of the property has a power easement through it. The other access to the park would come in through Smoke Road, but it's my understanding that Smoke Road access is a way back negotiation, litigation, settlement, and Wilcox Communities ended up transferring that property over to the township. There are topographical issues back there. There are stream crossing issues back there. So taking your access in through Smoke Road would be extraordinarily expensive. I'll stop there, Mr. Evans.
Thank you.
If it's okay.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Evans.
Let
Let me clarify one thing. On the agenda, and I've given you latitude, which I think has been very helpful, because I wanted you to recall or present some of the recent history, and I did attend the Licking County meeting last week in person, and that Zoom meeting as well, and I think that's a correct recap of that. I will have some comments regarding the ditch petition later, but the items tonight will be about the lot split request, which could you just, before you get your question in there, Mr. Evans, could you explain what that lot split request, we have the document here, I think for the record, so that the trustees and everyone in attendance understand how that works and how that has to take place first.
Yes,
as it relates to the plat, correct?
Yes, so the lot split request is for the 19.4 acres, which is the park property. And that would allow that lot split to go through the Licking County process, to get approved, hopefully, and allow that parcel to be split out, so removed from Langle ownership and combined with Etna Township ownership of your property to the north, formerly the JBW property.
And that's required in order for Licking County to sign off on the plat. And the document that I gave you earlier, that's one of the conditions, that has to be connected to the lot to the north. And that has to happen first, and it has to be part then of the Drayton Hall plat. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that's why we're here to do that. That's the first step.
Correct.
And then the second step, and then I'll go to questions from the trustees, is that Bricker Graydon represents
My client.
your client, and that's also our counsel. So the question is, the trustees, and I wanted to bring it to, well, I have to bring it to the board, is if you sign a legal waiver, that would say that the township agrees and his client agree that the attorney could represent both parties to try to get this resolved. Now, let me say, I'm new to this. I mean, I've been around a couple years listening to this discussion, but I wasn't as familiar with a lot of the details and the nuances. And I think it is important that we try to, of course, we have till June 1st, but I know there's a desire to close on this property much sooner than that. So I thought it made sense to try to bring these types of issues and begin to get some of these steps knocked out so that we can move to that final acquisition and closing on this property. So with that, the second thing would be the legal waiver. So now I'll defer to you, Mr. Evans, if you have questions or comments.
Yes, I do, Mr. Hodge. The original purchase agreement had 20.4 acres.
Yes.
It's now 19.4.
That's correct. Yeah.
Why was that
Yeah,
reduced? Or
So I mentioned to you, Mr. Evans, that this thing has been through, a several year process in terms of working through, with Lincoln County Planning, with Lincoln County Engineering, and somewhere along the way, the acreage being transferred over to the township and the acreage being developed got mixed up in that planning process. So the acreage is presently 19.4. It was previously 20 and change. All of that is shown in your Exhibit 2. That original 20 acres is shown in your Exhibit 2. And, I don't know if it was an issue of starting the process in the county without the benefit of, without the engineers having the benefit of the survey that was done for the park property, or what that issue is. But at this point in time, after having been through the couple-year process with Lincoln County, having those approved construction plans, where this ended up is the 19.4 acres.
okay, because I've been to, I think, most every trustee meeting before I was a trustee when this was going on, and I don't remember any discussion of
Correct.
changes. The original plot park map shows a section going through the Langle property to 310. That was changed to, when did all that change?
Which one? I didn't understand that part.
There was,
We have to come up and
yeah, sure. This was the original land plot shown, and then they changed it to have access to 310 through JDW. I just didn't know when that was changed because it wasn't during the meetings, and I know we can't go back, but I'm just trying to understand this.
I don't know.
Process.
I somewhat remember that, and I don't know why that exhibit didn't get created by me that you just had up there.
Correct.
And so, I don't know, but that's an example of really the evolution of this process over the course of the last 2.5 years. I wish I had a firm grasp on everything that's happened these last years,
Okay.
but I just don't.
Yeah, that's understandable.
But the acreage, and I'm glad you mentioned that, and I mentioned that when I met
That's
Mr.
correct.
Berger a week or two ago.
That's
that
correct.
The acreage is now 19.4 acres.
And that was discussed at the Lincoln County meeting last
Okay.
week, but there was no real explanation on when that change took place.
Right, and then regarding the ditch petition,
Yes, sir.
now, how is that going to work with that actually on our property, but you're saying the adjacent property is going to pay for that?
Correct.
That is allowable, that is,
Yes.
Yes.
and we're not paying any portion of that?
You are not.
Okay,
Well, unless let me kind of clarify that, unless we actually drain into that, if there's drainage, sometimes that gets assessed to the township as well. It just depends who drains in on the watershed. I mean, I have some familiarity with that. The concern I have, and I guess I'll interject it at this time, is that according to the county engineer, and I know it to be a fact, they only come in once a year to mow and maintain that, if that. So how they arrived at that funding, I don't know. One of the things that Mr. Hodge and I talked about, and he had talked one time, if there's an association for the apartments plus the outlots, that they could, if they have a fee that they pay every year, that could be used to supplement the maintenance of the pond, because having been here 20 years, I'm very familiar with what Mr. Hodge said, the lack of maintenance on these, and mowing that and maintaining that once a year, in my opinion, is not adequate. So that's one of the sticking points I had, that yes, there is the ditch petition, but by the county engineer's own admission, and I know because I live next door to a ditch that's maintained by the county, they will only come in once. So if it's an amenity, or if it's meant to be an amenity and a beautification of the park ground, then it's gonna take regular maintenance, maybe not every week, but at least every couple of weeks. And then there's also a concern, if it's not maintained, you're gonna get mosquitoes and vermin. So things like aeration of that pond and other things I think are important, and that's what I wanted to point out. And we've talked about that, but That's kind of a recent discussion we've had. I know that probably hasn't been discussed in the past.
But what we're just dealing with is simple lot split, all that other Kissel ditch, all that's later, correct?
Well, we'd like to get these things resolved as quickly as possible. I believe you'd like to have this on the next regular meeting for the.
No, but I'm saying just today.
Today
okay.
we're dealing with this, but I felt that background would be helpful, and that's why I wanted you to present. And
Yeah.
I've got no other questions, but just with the lot split. And
Yeah, I want to talk about it all, guys.
Well,
Because,
we've got a 6 o'clock meeting too, so we got to get through this.
yeah, you know, we want to close this deal. We want to transfer this 19.4 acres to Etna Township as the last piece of your park. We can all sit here and debate, you know, whether the park's even appropriate for Etna Township and you know, how much it's going to cost and all that, but the decision to acquire this property, these properties for the park got made, and this ship has been sailing, you know, sometimes with the wind at our back and sometimes the wind at our face, but it's been sailing this direction all along. We need to close with the Langle family. I told them that we're closing. We had to get a contract.
Today?
No.
Okay.
But Friday. We had an amendment with the Langle family that operated separate from the Langle family's agreement with you guys to get an extension. No contract goes for 3 years like this is gone. The Langle family is held in there with us, and haven't even increased the price on us, and haven't increased the price on you guys. They've held in there with us all the time. Now Mrs. Langle and Bill have a home that they need to buy.
Yes.
So just the only thing legally we can address today is the lot split because it's a special meeting that. So
and the waiver.
And the waiver, but as far as anything closing, we can't address. So I'm all for moving the process forward, but I think we can't discuss it. We can't decide it today. It's a lot split.
Ms. McKee, do you have anything?
I don't.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the lot split request as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? I'll move, yes. Any discussion on that?
The only thing, does that give you the authority to effectuate any agreements that are outside the meeting, or do you want to add that, amend it?
Well, actually, it's normally handled by the zoning inspector, but I wanted to bring it, and he signed off on it, so it's administrative.
Okay.
I wanted to bring it to the board, so everything's documented, and I wanted to make the board aware of what that does.
Okay, that's
And
fine.
that has to be done to move forward with the plat so that they can we can close on the park property and they can begin construction. And that's the goal, to close on the parkland and then to get the plat and so that they can move on to construction. Is that correct, Mr. Wright?
That is correct. And let me say this, this plat process is gonna continue to play out over an extended period of time. The plat actually doesn't go down and get recorded until the construction's done
That's
and
correct.
inspected
That's correct.
and all that. So we've got time to work on the plat, and we've got time to work on this ditch maintenance. The township leadership will have a seat at the table when we talk about what that maintenance needs to be. And to the extent, you know, additional money needs to get ear tagged that goes on to the real estate taxes for the development portion of this property to do that maintenance, we're all gonna be sitting there at the table with the county commissioners to decide together exactly what goes in that. Now, that doesn't mean we're gonna go out there and create an ice skating rink and do all kinds of other stuff. We're gonna do reasonable maintenance on it, but we understand that you've got a concern. We understand that this needs to be an amenity, and we're here standing at the table saying that we're gonna do all those things.
Any further discussion on the motion?
None.
I'll call the question. Roll call, please.
Mark Evans,
Yes.
Gary Burkholder,
Yes.
Councilman McKee.
Yes.
Yes.
Pass.
Is there a motion to engage in a legal waiver with Ricker Graydon to represent both parties to move this project forward?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Go ahead, Ms. McKee. Do you have some
So,
questions, comments?
So I know they represent the local family.
Well, Mr. Hodges' client, which is the developer, correct? Yes,
Right.
yes,
And you're saying that this is the same firm that represents the township.
that is correct.
So my concern is, why are we using a firm that's representing the other party? Why aren't we using a different firm, for instance, Peter Briggs' office? That's who he's been working with all along.
Well, we could use a different firm, and that's why I wanted to bring it to the board, but at the time that we switched over to Bricker Graydon, I was not aware that same firm was.
And the thing about it, Briggs' office has been working with them all along. It's been very, very familiar with this.
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead.
there was another firm that worked on this. Do you recall the name?
I do, Mr. That attorney, well, we could check with that firm, but that, Nick, what was Nick's, he's with your firm now?
Cavaliers.
I was with-
Cavaliers, yeah. What firm was he with previously? Is that, you are correct, Mr.
So we
Ellis.
were already using an attorney, because I believe they were recommended by the prosecutor, correct?
I talked to Nick a little bit today at the office about this issue. Nick represented the township, and he was deputized by Licking County as a prosecutor. And then Etna Township was also using a gentleman by the name of Matt Stewart, who was then in the Licking County prosecutor's office. And that had to do with, generally the departments that you just now showed me, acquiring those, working through some of the nuances with Licking County planning to get all that assemblage done. But Nick is now with our office. The other law firm, this is my third Etna Township leadership regime here since this development started. There have been 3 different law firms involved since this started. It started with Alvarez & Alvarez, and then went to Brocious, Johnson & Griggs. Now it's at Bricker Graydon. Also the involvement of the county prosecutor. And we're just along for the ride. We're trying to see this thing through and bring it to fruition. I know I talk too much, guys. I'll stop. But we're.
Yeah, well, that was just my question.
No,
If
that's a good
they
one.
were available, but it looks like they've joined the firm, and I mean, I think we're at the tail end of this. I have confidence in Bricker and Graydon to represent fairly in that, and they're obviously very familiar with this, so it's not a lot of time for someone to get up to speed. So to kind of bring this home, I think we should approve that waiver and just keep moving forward.
Ms. McKee, I want to give you the last word if you have, but I do agree, that was a great question and a concern of why so if there's no further discussion, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Trustee Evans?
Yes.
Trustee Burkholder?
Yes.
Trustee McKee? No.
Okay, motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Evans?
Yes.
Trustee Burkholder?
Yes,
Trustee McKee? Yes. Adjourned at 5:44.
thank you.
We're getting kicked out by zoning.
You have 1 second, Mr. Burkholder?
Yeah, Paula.
I have a question. He said.
So now, the waiver has been approved. Does that, can I now talk to Mr. Conway directly?
Well, let me call him. Yeah. Caleb, I don't know.
Find their later. I'm a big brother.
We contacted.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's really Caleb's specialty.
I understood that would be one of the possibilities to win that.
Grocery Griggs is different, but I don't know.
David?
So we can check in. That'll help. Let's start talking. Oh, yeah.
Because there's a lot of work.
Yeah. Sure. I want to make sure we've got the
Better have.